Hey guys, Lord here, back again with another action figure review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe, Revolution, King Keldor, William Shatner himself. This, of course, is brought to us by the fine folks over at, say it with me now, Mattel. And I gotta tell you, when I initially saw this figure, I was like, what the hell is this? This is not Keldor. This is not Keldor at all. I was all about being ready to be all hashtag not my Keldor, but instead the clever writers over at Netflix made me really like this version of Keldor. On top of the fact they got William Shatner to voice him, and he did a kick-ass job as his character. I don't care what you say. You know, hate Star Trek all you want. He did a great job as his character. There is no doubt in my mind that he is winning people over on the Keldor character, because it definitely wasn't the 2000X version. That's for sure. A lot of people resent the 2000X version of Keldor, which I don't really understand, but fine. To each their own. But they did wonders with this character by merging the 2000X origins of Skeletor with the 1980s origins of Skeletor, sticking them in a blender, and bada bing, bada boom, we got a really solid series out of it. Although I do think it should have been maybe an episode longer, so things didn't feel quite as... They felt a little rushed at times, I'm not going to lie. But for what they had to do in the time they had to do it, I think they did a really good job. I'd rather have a short series that's, for the most part, really freaking good, like really freaking good, as opposed to a longer series that feels drawn out, you know? So, with that being said, let's cut right to the chase and get into the meat and taters of this review and take a look, see at all King Keldor has to come with, starting off with a pair of Kung Fu grip hands here. With the inappropriate hinge for holding weapons, I don't know why Mattel does this, but they'll make the appropriate hinge for holding weapons, and then instead of reusing that, they'll give you the same, like, wrong hinge all the time. It's very weird. But he's got a pair of those. He's got an alternate head. This is actually the head he comes packaged with. I put the smirking head on him because he just seems like that kind of a douchebag. Then he does come with a crown. It's a little gummier than the crown that Skeletech come with. And no, it's not the same, but you can slip it right over his noggin here. It's not too difficult. There we go. And there's your crowned King Keldor. Looking a lot like Vlad the Impaler, I'm not gonna lie. Right down to the fur collar and the goatee and the... Well, he doesn't have long hair, but could pass for a vampire, I guess. But he's got the robes, which are very hindering of the articulation. I wish they'd use something softer, or maybe cut it or something in a way that it didn't hinder so much, but I guess they are restricted in what they can do due to the character design, which is fairly simplistic. He's got this nice soft goods cape with the fur on it. It does have like nylon straps, so I hope those hold up. Because I'll tell you what, I actually had to take this cape off of mine to heat up the arms, because he's got these hinge swivel elbow things going on, and I don't know what it is between this guy and what we initially saw with hinge swivel elbows on Masterverse with Megan Foster Evil Lynn from the 87 movie. These were so freaking tight, I was a little concerned about breaking them if I didn't heat them. So I heated them up. I actually took them out, put some soap in there, and then I popped them back together and then added more soap until I felt comfortable moving the darn things, because they just do not... I don't know what the deal with these hinge swivel elbows is. They just don't feel quite right to me. They just feel too tight, I guess. That said, as far as articulation goes, his head is on the standard kind of hinge joint. Can look up and down and whatnot. Can rotate side to side, tilt a little bit. All that jazz. Shoulders go up. Almost a right angle to the body. They do rotate forward and back. He does have a hinge in the elbow with a swivel, as I mentioned before. I will say this side is a little tighter than the other one, but thanks to that soap, is this even pushed in all the way? Doesn't even feel like it's pushed in all the way, but it is. Not to mention that the hinge is a little loose on this side compared to the other side. I'm just not a fan of these hinge swivel elbows. I don't know what it is. But as far as the wrists go, they are also on hinges with rotation there. His torso has pretty good range, considering. You can tilt back pretty far. You can tilt forward pretty far. You can rotate. And this is one of the figures where you can rotate in the top and the bottom. So you'll find that sweet spot. Have a nice, tight, solid joint there. His waist does rotate as well. That works fine. As far as his hips go, very restricted. He's got the drop downs, but can't really use them. But they are there. He's got a thigh cut. Like He-Man, he's got those waxy kind of thighs or hips. Not as bad as some of the new Eternia figures, as far as the waxy feeling of them goes, but it's something to keep an eye on. He does have a double knee, but I'm trying to get any use out of it. You're going to have trouble because of his tunic there. And then he's got the swivel in the boot with a hinge and a rocker and peg holes at the bottom of the feet. Guess you want to throw him on a figure stand. That said, not going to lie, I think he's a little light on accessories, despite the fact he's got a lot of new tooling. I would have rather have gotten the double elbows on this guy, if they could have found a way to get that in there, but, you know, due to the way his costume is designed, I don't know how they could have got that in there and made it look this decent. I mean, he doesn't get great range out of those elbow hinges either, so I don't know. Maybe they could have made this... I think they could have made the sleeves out of a softer material, that's for sure. I would have been okay if those were gummy. Then they would have been much easier to probably assemble and get those swivels in the elbow moving a little bit more, I don't know, butter smooth as opposed to the weird detent thing they got going on, which is something I notice on Marvel Legends too. A lot of the cut joints now, they have these little notches in them, which I'm all for tight joints on my figures, don't get me wrong, but when it feels like stuff's gonna break, you're doing a little too much, and I think you can dial it back a smidge. Just being honest here. So, with that being said, it's time now that we move right along and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is good old, or not so good old, if you watch the Master of the Universe Revolution series, that is, King Keldor alongside he himself and him, Skeletech. And if you ever wanted to see Captain Kirk and Luke Skywalker work together, that's the closest you're going to get, buddy. And we also have the Battle Armor He-Man we took a look at yesterday. Check that review out if you haven't already. Really appreciate it if you did. But as far as scaling goes, I think Keldor looks good alongside these two. So, getting them out of here. That was such a trip seeing Star Wars and Star Trek collide, but not collide at the same time. Here's our regulars, the Mythic Legions Brother Mandibulus, and the infamous 11 Spawn, who is a little taller than old King Keldor. Not towering, mind you, but taller. So with that being said, it's time now that we wrap things up. Some final thoughts. Overall, and aside from the hinge swivel elbows being a little bit too tight in the swivel department, on my particular figure anyways, I don't know if they're all going to be like that. That said, it is kind of weird that we went from the Megan Foster Evelyn having hinge swivel elbows that were, you know, decent, to this guy's who were just straight up stiff to the point where I had to use a hairdryer to get them moving. But other than that though, this figure physically embodies the King Keldor character we saw in the Masters of the Universe Revolution series over on Netflix. I really like this figure. I really like the character in the show. As I mentioned earlier, I think the Shat killed it as this character. And I thought what they did with him in the series was very creative. You know, they kind of merged 2000X with the original lore in a sense and made it work for just about everyone. Again, just about everyone. There's the select few that are gonna, you know, piss and moan about it until the end of time, but for who gives a crap what they think? We all liked it, right? So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.